Hey everyone, welcome back to Berlin Noir. Today we're going to be working on a few things further outside the center of town, and starting off, we're going to be finally getting around to building the Hermannplatz department store. So this has been requested quite a lot ever since the asset came out on the workshop, and it's a really interesting structure and very iconic and famous to the city of Berlin. It was built in, or I should say, it was finished actually in 1929, which is perfect timing for this series. But unfortunately, it did not survive World War II. So exists today is a kind of bland, modern building, nothing special. I did find this picture here, which is basically what it would look like if they ever actually got around to rebuilding the original structure, which there is actually some I'd say some momentum as far as potentially getting around to actually, rebuilding it, or at least redoing the facade of the building and making it look more like the original building. So that would certainly be cool if they, someday got around to actually doing that. But yeah, so what we're doing here on screen, for the most part, there wasn't really a whole lot to do since the building is, it's a massive asset. I don't really have to do anything to it. It has the roof already detailed, as you can see, with some chairs and stuff. So what I decided to do was focus mostly just detailing the road and the plaza out front. I initially just placed just a tram road, nothing special. Something from the workshop, just a 4-lane road with a tram down the middle. But it didn't really make sense to do that. One, just because I wanted to kind of capture the large kind of plaza feel to it and the intricacy of the road going through it. But also, as I said, there wasn't really a whole lot to do for Hermanplatz, so I wanted to take a little time building around there. But what I decided to do was just, as you see, make this. Trying to model it after the actual road that did go through there back then, and include the U-Bahn stations there, and I think it definitely turned out pretty cool. But as you see there, we're already moving on from the front of the store. We're on the back side of the building now. But yeah, so like I said, there wasn't really a whole lot to do in the front, and not a whole lot of detailing really, because in the pictures that I saw, really regardless of the time period, whether it was in 1920 or the 1930s, there really wasn't a whole lot going on out front. No trees, no other props or anything going on really. So I left it like that for the most part. Didn't really add too many details. So I focused a little bit on the backside, making that I guess that one building go all the way across, just to add something to it, so it wasn't this just big plain kind of fairly ugly texture just going across there, just that wall. So I decided to do that, make the back look a little interesting. Also, one thing I forgot to do, so I'll mention, as you can see, the simulation in the bottom left is running at 95%, so it's going to be a little jerky. Sorry about that for a few more minutes. Normally I run it at 20%. I forgot to do it. I guess just getting back into the thing of things and making videos. So yeah, it's a little jerky for a few more minutes, but I do eventually get it back down to 20%. But anyways, so yeah, moving on from Hermannplatz, we are a few blocks to the left, and we are working on some gasometers, or gasometer, however you want to pronounce it. Here's a nice aerial view of it. But just these 4 large gas storage tanks, basically what they are, and sitting in the center of the block. So it's definitely a cool, interesting feature to build. And really this entire area, as you move outside of Kreuzberg and into Neukölln, so southeast of the city, there gets a lot of variation. Mixture of some industrial stuff, some warehouses, parks, cemeteries, just your regular blocks of residential buildings. And looking more in detail gets me kind of excited to build more out this way more. So I think I will do that for at least a foreseeable future. We'll see how many episodes. just because it just adds flavor, stuff unique. Building stuff in the center of these blocks, such as these gasometers, or other type of industry warehouses, that type of thing. Seems pretty cool. So yeah, definitely. Also, just for the sake of expanding the city, of course, I gotta do that as well. So yeah, I kind of think I will work out this way for a little bit. But anyways, so yeah, so this block here, like I said, has those 4 storage tanks there in the center, and I did scale them down quite a lot. You might have saw when I first placed them down, because otherwise the 4 of them would have took up almost the entirety of this little block here. So I didn't have so this area here is a little scaled down. So there's a few blocks missing of some industrial type stuff that would be there otherwise. So I did want to include some sort of industry, as I mentioned already, in the center of these blocks. So I figured the gasometers were the coolest since they kind of stood out the most. Another thing, you might see some of the ugly vanilla props on the front of these buildings, like the neons and the signs and stuff like that. For whatever reason, one of the mods that removes those type of vanilla props just decided to apparently stop working midway through the game or something, because I swear I was building and then all of a sudden they just appeared out of nowhere. So yeah, you'll see now that some of that stuff is on there. I do fix that at some point, so they are gonna disappear again. But yeah, I don't know what was happening with that. It kind of freaked me out for a second because I went into the mod and everything said it was shut off, that all those vanilla assets were removed, but they were still showing up. So I was like, what's going on? But yeah, it was, I guess, a big deal as I thought it might be for a moment. But I guess another thing that I kind of skipped over, but that building, which is now off to the right, off screen, but at the corner there, where I used PO to kind of mesh those 3 right there at the very right side of the screen to combine that building into kind of just a corner building. That worked out so much better than I expected, because I use very few buildings to kind of use PO to make awkward angled corner buildings, since in game, of course, almost all assets are for only 90-degree corners. You have a few that are for maybe 120. I think I have one that's for 135 degrees. But of course, it's kind of hard to always keep those corners at those angles. So I'm frequently just using PO to combine buildings, and only a few buildings really work well. Kind of less intricate, less detailed ones, because if you have, when you convert to PO and adjust all the vertices, if you have too many vertices, it's just kind of gets difficult to use PO to combine the building without making it look ugly or make it look messed up or anything. But that one turned out really well, so I'm happy to have found another building that works well with PO to make a kind of custom corner building. So yeah, that was glad I found that. But anyways, I guess moving on from that. So now we're just detailing the center of the center of this block here around these gasometers. It was hard to tell exactly on the aerial view exactly what was going on here, since I've kind of mentioned this before. With that aerial view, of course, that's from 1928. So the quality of stuff, I imagine, just taken from an observation balloon, right? However far up in the sky from kind of old-fashioned camera. Of course, it's not going to be super high quality. So considering all that, it's an amazing quality to begin with. But sometimes the images are, I guess, underexposed or overexposed, based on the lighting and such. So it's definitely sometimes hard to make out exactly what's going on. And that's especially true out this way, this side of the city. There are some areas, especially around parks and cemeteries, where I have no idea what's going on, and I can't really use modern day images or Google Maps, because it's a lot of stuff changed in this area. For example, only one of these gasometers still exists today, And it's not, of course, as it doesn't store gas or anything. It was converted in the 1940s to a bunker, and now it's a museum, and I think it has a rooftop garden with glass windows. So I imagine it's a pretty cool place to go up on top and get a nice view of the city, especially out that way. So I'd one day like to get over there and visit that and see the views from the top there. But yeah, so I more or less just plopped down a bunch of random, kind of dirty, industrial-like props. Because, yeah, like I said, I didn't really know what was going here. What would make sense to go here, right? Piles of coal next to gas containers probably doesn't really make sense. But I put it just to add something. But most of what kind of really brought it together was, I think, in a little bit just adding some grass tufts around the gasometers. Makes it look pretty cool. But it definitely took a little longer than I expected to detail this whole area, because coming into the episode, I was thinking that it would be, the Hermannplatz and the department store there would take up the vast majority of it. But as we saw, that took only a few minutes. So I almost actually just finished the episode after I finished this area here. It was only, at that point, I think like 12, 13 minutes long. So I was, for a little bit, I was just considering ending it there, just throwing some cinematics at the end, of course, and calling it a day for the video and seeing, if you guys like the shorter type of videos. But I know I've asked before, and most of you say you do like longer videos. 20, even 25 minutes long. So I figured I'd think of something to build, take up a little more time in the episode. And since, like I said, this is a ways outside the center of town and in the immediate vicinity of the department store and now this building here, there's not a whole lot. I haven't really built anything here. So I figured it'd make sense to take some time to fill in some more areas around here. So once we finish up here, we actually go back to Hermannplatz, and at the corner there is a cemetery. And I mentioned this already, there are a lot of cemeteries in this immediate area. Even today there's still a lot. I think a lot of them, or some of them, or at least parts of them, have been converted to parks and stuff. But yeah, back then it looks like a massive park, so I had to do a lot of reading and stuff and trying to find pictures, which unfortunately I couldn't really find pictures of the areas outside of Hermannplatz. So I kind of just had to go off the aerial view and just Googling, hoping to find something that would actually tell me what's going on in this area. So this area here is the only thing I could say for certain that I knew it was a cemetery, since it still exists today and hasn't changed a whole lot between back then and today. Here you can see the picture of the aerial view of what we're doing, the cemetery there. Top left, that little white kind of area thing, that's actually the department store under construction. So that was in 1928. But to this building here, not really sure what it was back then, but I just kind of made it as kind of a entrance, more or less, to the cemetery. Couldn't really find the exact building to match what it was, so I just went with something that had a similar colored roof, and I figured it wasn't a super big deal since, like I said, I'm not sure what it was back then. Today I think it's like a gym or some sort of thing, probably multiple things in this building, so it's pretty large. But I wanted to detail the front similar, how I could see how it was back then. Just some nice paths in the front. But so here we are moving to the back side and working on the cemetery. So the cemetery took much longer than it should have, partly just because they have these nice 2x2 and 4x4 cemetery blocks, but as you can see, they didn't quite fit in right, and I didn't want to make these little rectangular blocks where I'd put the cemeteries. I don't want to make them not symmetrical. I wanted to make them look even, make them look nice as they are, and so they just weren't fitting in nicely, and I don't know. It took me a while to figure out how I wanted to do this, and unfortunately, I can't convert these to procedural objects for whatever reason. When they do, everything just disappears. The only other thing I had were these small cemetery props here, the tombstones, but they're a little smaller, and you can tell that they obviously are different. So I just went with it, figured it wasn't a huge deal, and I just kind of wanted to get it over with the cemetery, since it's a little repetitive just laying all these tombstones down. And especially since, like I said, there's a whole lot of these in the area. So probably this is going to be the only cemetery I do on camera in this area. We'll see. It's hard to say. Sometimes when I'm building stuff, I maybe look a little closer and find out there's a little more going on than just a cemetery. So if something like that happens, I'll include whatever it is in the video. But yeah, like I said, it's I don't know, I feel like it's fairly monotonous to watch, so I didn't want to include too much of it. But I'd say the fun part of this was doing the mausoleums, which I think we get to in a few seconds. I might be wrong though. But trying to find assets for that, just using PO to convert different assets and shrink them down. Yeah, here we are. So I use, for one, the that asset there. It's a Neue Wache, which is a memorial. So I shrunk it down to make it look like a mausoleum, and I don't know, I feel like it works. Since I don't know, I'm not sure if, frankly, I don't even know if mausoleums are common in Germany at all. I didn't see them or anything in any pictures or anything, but at least I don't know. I assume they are. But in the U.S., they're for, I guess, more wealthier individuals or people with status, for whatever. So kind of went with that same vibe and gave them these fancy little structures there where they'd be buried, and kind of sectioned off from the rest of the cemetery. But just adding a little flavor, because like I said, the cemetery and laying on those tombstones can get pretty boring, monotonous to build and, I suppose, watch as well. So just wanted to change it up a little bit. But so anyways, just the rest of the episode, we're going to be doing just some more minor detailing out front now. But yeah, I guess let me know what you want to see. I got some good recommendations in the previous video. One of you, I believe, in fact, said to build Hermanplatz and the department store, so hopefully you're happy that we got around to that. But yeah, give me more suggestions, anything you want to see built or updated, anything like that. I know a few of you said you want to see central Berlin, so like Unter den Linden, just the central district updated, since that's one thing that I built from the very start of the series, and I don't show it often because I'm not very proud of it, because it really needs to be updated. So eventually we'll get around to that. Not sure if I'll make it into a video, but we'll see eventually. But another thing worth mentioning, this is episode 41. Come episode 45, we're going to do another overview episode. So for anyone new, or of course we've been away for a little while, so for everyone else, you'll get to see the entirety of the city, and maybe get some ideas of what you want to see built, or again updated, once you actually get around to seeing that. So look forward to that in a few episodes. But anyways, that is going to do it for today's episode. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.